Okay, this part is kind of my synthesis of a number of approaches on how to elicit information as best as possible. And again, remember, there are many, many reasons. Very valid reasons, not just because they're trying to be bad clients. Many valid reasons why people are not forthcoming. So we have to be gentle and patient. All right, so here we go. On the top, these are approaches you would be recognizing for other types of ways to start conversations around empathy. I've noticed, and you're going to notice what's coming in the door. You're going to notice what's in front of you. You're going to notice changes that's happening in their life circumstance or in their mood. And then you're going to express active listening things of tell me more. Before you go into any kind of intervention thing that might alleviate pain, get the full perspective, because you might skip over the fact that behind all this pain is suicidal thoughts. So tell me more, I'm listening, give me an example, all of that really good active listening piece. I'm grateful that you told me, thank you for that. And then you're going to introduce suicide thoughts. And what I actually do at this transition is I start to summarize all the pain points, all those psychological pain points that they've listed out, all the reasons for dying that I've heard, all the risk factors that I hear, and I literally put them on my hand. I said, let me make sure I got this straight. So what you're telling me is you're separated from your wife, you've just had this incredibly stressful job transition, you're not sure if your kids are going to come around this weekend, and you're feeling like and then this happened, and then you can actually feel the weight of all of that pain, like physically in your hand. And then you say, sometimes when people have all of this kind of pain, sometimes they think about suicide. And I want you to use the word, all right? You're going to model, I can talk about this, and I'm going to use the word directly. I'm not going to say, are you thinking about harming yourself? Because that's actually a different question. You're going to ask about suicide. You can say killing yourself. That's also the same thing. But when you model, we can say that word, you put it out there, and we can deal with this together, okay? So I'm going to open the door to suicidal thoughts. Sometimes when people have this much pain or this kind of situation, sometimes they think about suicide. We don't have to wait for the perfect moment to ask that question. We don't have to wait until all our checklists are filled out. What percentage of college students? Half. All right, so chances are good. It's there if you have a lot of pain. And if you're wrong, what's the worst thing that happened? They say no. Or you feel a little awkward. They're probably going to be grateful that you were checking in. All right, so we have this politeness tension sometimes that we're like, oh, we don't want to offend them, and oh, what if we're wrong, and then we look stupid. Just ask a question. All right, so sometimes people think about suicide. Sometimes people are thinking about suicide because it helps them temporarily alleviate some of that pain that we're talking about. And then I want you to end the question with this. I'm wondering if it's true for you. I'm wondering if it's true for you. Okay, so when you set the question up like that, so different than, are you thinking about suicide? You're not thinking about suicide, are you? Right, very different. You're having a conversation rather than a checklist. All right, so the reason it's in a circle is because sometimes you got to go around the bend more than once. Yeah. So sometimes you'll get a no, and you'll say, on one hand this, and on one hand that. Can you help me make sense of it? Sometimes you'll get a no, not really. Is that a yes or a no? That's a go around the bend again. Sometimes you'll get information that's not related as an answer to the question. You said, thank you for sharing that. What I asked you, what I want to know is this. Can you answer that question? Okay, might have to go around the bend a couple of times. All right, so interestingly enough, the way to ask this question emerged out of all places from primary care with doctors who are asking men about erectile dysfunction. And it turns out that when things are marginalized and people have shame around them and they don't want to disclose, they'll do what they think the politeness thing is and just say, yeah, whatever, move on. So when primary care docs used to say, everything okay down there, and people like, yeah. When they shifted it, they said, sometimes men of your age or sometimes men with this particular health condition experience erectile dysfunction. I'm wondering if it's true for you. People are like, oh my gosh, it's not just me. Yes. And plus the doctor's giving me hope that maybe there's something we can do here. So setting up that question, I'm wondering, I'm not accusing, I'm wondering, I'm curious, is that true for you? Okay, so this is we're going to practice this in just a second, so I'll park that there for now, and then I'm going to move ahead and I'll come back. Sean Shea wrote the book, The Practical Art of Suicide Assessment. He's kind of the granddaddy of how do you keep these conversations going to elicit really helpful information for your risk formulation. And he's come up with some very specific tactics it's a full book and a full day of training, and I'm going to give you a little bit of the cliff notes, but I also want to encourage you to dig deeper. All right, so these are some of his suggestions. One is use a normalizing prompt. You can say even a self-normalizing prompt. You know, when I hear you and I think about this, if that were happening to me, I could also maybe see how that pain might be unbearable and how even I could find myself in that space. All right, so self-normalizing. The behavioral chain analysis we've talked about a couple of times. Let me slow you down. Let me tell me what happened next, what happened next, what happened next. Shame attenuation is actually pretty clever. So there are a bunch of things people will not disclose because they're afraid you're going to be judged. You're going to judge me if I share them with you. One example would be lying, right? You're going to judge me if I admit to lying. So the way Sean sets this up is he says, understand this shameful behavior, the thing that we judge, within a context of where the person learned to do it. So you would say something like, you know, sometimes when people who have grown up in an alcoholic or violent home, sometimes they learn that they have to lie to survive. And I'm wondering if that's something that you learned then that also still happens today. So you frame it within a context of understanding where the behavior was functional for them at one point, and you're much more likely to get a conversation about it instead of people feeling like they're being accused or judged. This one's probably my favorite, number 4. It's the gentle assumption that it's there. So rather than set up the yes or no question, is this happening for you? You're going to assume that it's there. So instead of, I'm wondering if it's true for you, you say, I'm wondering how many times suicide has crossed your mind, even if it was just fleeting in nature. Little gentle assumption, I'm going to assume it's there because what percentage of college students? We assume that it's there. All right, symptom amplification, also clever. All right, so people will tell us kind of what they think we're supposed to hear. The great example around this is drinking behavior. Like people kind of know, like within a certain range, that's supposed to be healthy, so that's what I'll tell them. So this is what you do. You overestimate. So you say, so, you know, on a typical weekend night, how many drinks are you having, like 45? And they're like, oh, no, not 45, 24. Right, they're much more likely to give you if they think that you think that's what they're doing. Oh no, not that bad, but 24. They'll come a little closer to what they actually do. And then the last one, he says, you know, go walk through the denial by each means. So even with Mrs. Nelson, right, we're assuming, you know, that's the only thing. Have we also checked out firearms, access to firearms, and everything? So have the denial of each specific mean one by one.